Notorious Fire. Such a great name. Brings me back to bumping mid-90s rap jams from the one and only Biggie Smalls. Lenny is literally the man when it comes to custom designs. Dude went to art school, like legit college for art. Just look at all his work. This guy has artwork on snowboards and even guitars. He's constantly creating new sticker designs. But more than that, he's customizing tumblers, mugs, glasses, cigar cases. Well, basically anything you can customize at this point, Notorious Fire Company will customize for you. On top of that, his IG game is on point. And occasionally, you even get to see a pic of the man behind the brand. So check him out at notoriousfire.com or on IG at notoriousfire. Trust me, you won't be disappointed in his work. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 37 of the Size Up by National Fire Radio. It's your old pal Pip, and I say your old pal. The hardest
your
thing.
Old pal. This is your Rogers neighborhood.
Should I flip my shoe? Maybe. See, I love having guests that I'm friendly with because they just jump right in and there's no intro. Maybe I should come up. I feel like, and I was thinking about this morning because I listened to. All right, hey, wait, listen before we even go down this path. Welcome. My guest here, Rob from Flow and Vent, good friend of mine, very Polish last name that I will murder if I say it out loud, just like I murdered my guest's first name last week. But luckily we have the same first name, so Rob isn't a problem. But Rob, thanks for joining me today. What's going on?
Thanks for having me. You know, just it's kind of cool to sit down on your podcast. Like I was thinking about it, like what are we going to talk about? I'm like, when's the first time I met this guy? And it was at the when Bobby started on the train up at Morristown when he did that little
yeah. We did it was at
the first taking it to the streets or whatever. Not taking the streets, you know, his
like platform. a bruising knowledge or tips,
something like that. And
so
I was like,
taps and topics, maybe taps and
that's what it was, something like this. And I remember I was like always trying to, like, before I knew who you were, like, you know, when 555 was starting and you were doing the grants and all the little, you know, firehouse gyms and stuff. I'm like always entering, nothing's working. And then we go to that event and I'm like, you're like, hey, I'm Pip. I'm the guy behind. I'm like, son of a gun. You're this guy this whole time. And then this is what it is. Now, you know, both Jersey guys, and we're here today, just rolling forward.
It's funny too, because actually I mentioned that event with John in last week's episode, because that's where I met his dad that night. It's not where I first met, but that's like one of the most Jersey events I've ever been to, because it was funny because a few people spoke and talked that night.
Yeah.
And there were a few of us all in the back that were either like sponsoring the event or social media people, or then Bobby came back there.
Sure.
And some random dude walked over to us and was like, hey, could you guys keep it down? I'm trying to learn.
Yes.
And like, we were like, remember,
God.
We were like,
where are the guys?
Yeah, right. Like,
the reason you're here,
way in the back. And like, I want to say it was Bobby, because I think Bobby just got finished doing his thing. He was like, hey, fucko, there's seats right up front. So if you want to go fucking learn, why don't you sit in the front seat?
And we were like in the kitchen doorway. Like,
yeah, we were like
hustle and bustle anyway.
Yeah, like not in the room where it was going on, but it was like the most Jersey thing where I'm like, oh my God, because then it got a little heated and some of his friends came over and I'm like, we're gonna brawl here.
And that dude was like an older dude. So like, you know, everybody always, this could turn into a rabbit hole, but you always have those guys like, oh, the guys at the back table, or you know, those guys don't come around anymore. Well, that was an old dude.
Yeah,
that was like, yo, what the hell? And you're like, what?
Yeah, and it was kind of, but it was like one of those things where he was like, if you want to learn, move up. Yeah. There's loads of seats.
Absolutely.
We're back here, like it was like the people that put on the event, and I just happened to be back there with you guys.
It was fun. It was a good time.
It's the most Jersey thing that could happen in New Jersey. Is like, we're gonna brawl about this.
Right.
We're running the event at an educational event. What did I just miss happen here?
You can't make it up.
You really can't. But so this morning, I'm on my way home from work, and I was finishing this week's episode of Smartless. I don't know if you listened to that podcast.
I will jump in on it next.
Oh, dude, it's Jason Bateman, Will Arnett.
Okay.
I'm Sean from, I can never remember his last name, but Sean from Will and Grace. And they interview really famous people all the time.
Okay.
And it's just hysterical. They have great chemistry. There's so much to learn about theater and about the industry. And it's all different kinds of things. I mean,
right.
Joe Biden once. So they have all people all over the place. And they do these great intros and they do these great outros. And I'm like, you know, and today's guest was Matthew McConaughey, who's just an amazing guest for this week. So, but I'm like, man, my intros suck. And my outros suck even more than that. And these guys are so good at it. I'm like, this is like, why? why is it so hard? Why can't I come up with
Dude.
something? I'm like, it's like a relationship or like sex. It's always hard in the beginning and then
And
hard
then just
again at the end, sort of, for
how do I
most
clean
people
this
or
up?
not. But you're like, the middle is the easy part. I was like, this part's
Yeah.
the good part. It's
All
just
right, listen, dude, ours is the same. It's like Mike made that like crate when he was like in his DJing, when he was streamlining his DJing as a post college kid. It was like he did that crazy intro with the siren and the names and the this. So I'm like, all right, cool. And then how do we always end it? We always like just hit the button, like just a hard ending, just a complete
why.
just plane
Like,
crash of an ending every time. I don't know. Is it the thing now? It
I
seems
don't
like
know
that's
if people even listen to the outro. I don't know what people listen to
people are
anymore.
like, all right, I'm 20 minutes into this next.
Yeah, like, and then you wonder, like, and I try to say that too, where I'm like, listen, you want to listen to a whole episode because you never know where
Right.
what is going to matter to you most comes in. So
Sure.
for me, I know I've kind of started to zero in on like hour-long podcasts.
Hmm.
That's what I do, right? That's what we put out
Yeah.
with the size up here, and what Jeremy's been putting out with National Fire Radio. But I realize that that works for me.
Right.
I still jump back into Jocko podcast, but they're 2.5, 3
Yeah.
hours
Some of them get
sometimes.
crazy.
Yeah, and I have an hour commute. I have an hour. I have a half an hour commute to work. So
Sure.
that literally for our schedule, like one Jocko podcast is a month almost
Yeah.
of commuting, like kind of.
Absolutely. It's
So,
crazy.
so it's crazy. It's trying to find your groove. You know what I mean? To find what works. So it's what works for me.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So tell the folks who you are because we haven't even really
Oh
gotten into that.
God.
What it is you do
Um,
in this world aside from
so
the fights at bars with me and old guys.
yeah, no, I'm not a smart man. I'm just a fireman. I always heard that from my one battalion. He's retired now, Chief Alberti. He always said that. He's like, Rob, just take it easy. No, but I guess it's not like an AA meeting. But I'm Rob. I'm one of the flow event guys. I happen to write for a couple magazines on all sides of the fence. I guess that's taboo for some folks, but I've been published in both of them, three of them when they had the other one. Do some stuff for the FMBA with training. Teaching up here in Bergen. I work in Passaic. I've been a volley everywhere pretty much, and that's another thing that I'll catch shit for. But listen, you want to get experience, especially in the world we're in today. Growing up, you gotta jump around a little bit. You gotta hustle a little bit. And then I'm kind of a nerd. I got a couple of degrees, and yeah, I don't know. That's me. I mean,
I didn't know you had nerdy
what's cool
degrees.
about this
What
is
are
like
what are your nerdy degrees in? Wait, hold on.
uh,
Can't just be.
so my dream was always to go to Colorado, now, see, before there was Coach Prime, I was going there when they were like 1-11 and 3-7. But I went to Colorado for film studies. And it was awesome, dude. My 1 year there, and the guys that know me that listen to this, I'm sure they'll get a text of, oh, you're bringing up Colorado again. It was only a year of your life. Yeah, true. But when I was there, I got involved with Boulder Fire Rescue. Did a couple internship things over there. Got involved in a leadership program, and then that all spilled into what we're doing today. Came back, went to Ramapo College up here in Jersey. Uh, got to do a little American Studies kind of stuff. Continued to do interning. Continued to do behind the scenes work with the fire service, and then you get hired. Ended up doing my a master's degree with Arizona State, emergency management, homeland security, all that kind of fun stuff. And I was an intern in New York City in the training unit for OEM, and then I got hired as a career fireman. And now for some reason it's slowly clicking, and I'm teaching a little bit of here, a little bit of there. Expo next week, the Fire Pro in Connecticut in October, and hopefully one day the fire gods will allow me to go to FDIC. But if it doesn't happen, it's cool, dude. I'm kind of life is happening. Like we said, we putting this podcast together, recording with the little guy upstairs now.
This is a first too. This is a first in episode 37 for the size up where I guess child is sleeping. We're doing starting nap time for
Yeah,
your
nap time trying to.
son, right? Son,
Oh,
correct?
dude, it's crazy. You were like, you ready? I'm like, trying. I'm like monitoring. I'm like,
Well,
oh,
I wanted you to know, like, I'm good to go. Like, I know how it
yeah.
goes. But, like, the second that kid goes down, we got to go. Like, we can't waste our time talking because this is your clutch time. And I appreciate you giving up your nap
No,
time because that
and
is sometime
it's crazy, and
the
it's
time
funny.
you
Like you
get.
see, like listen, I'm not like a conspiracy guy, but you know how the phones are these days. You start seeing like memes start popping up more and more. It's like, when you have a kid, fit in your life in 2 hours. It's true. It's crazy.
100%. Wait till 2 hours turns to one, and
Oh,
then one turns to none. You know what I mean? Like it all happens. And then anyone with kids has been there, and especially in our profession, we do a lot of, and I got wrecked for saying this in the New York Times article, and I can get wrecked again for saying it now, but it's what I call it, the daddy daycare role that
oh,
I took on. I
yeah,
love every minute of it. I
yeah,
had
for
such a
sure.
blast with my boys. I have a bigger blast when they're in school for 8 hours a day and I'm home alone, but that's a different story too. But that is something we get to experience that a lot of people don't. And
Yeah,
it makes me appreciate the job so much more.
absolutely. And it's like crazy. Like in my house at work, it was like generationally, I was like the first younger guy to have a kid. So now it's like you start seeing like me with a year and a half year old, and guys are having kids, and it's like you just see like that generational gap. And the guys, like the senior guys, are now saying like, "Oh, see what we were talking about? Like we got you."
Oh
Like all
yeah.
the like fun stories you always hear about are like coming out now, and you're like living in the moment. You're like, "Wow, yeah, gotcha. I understand you."
Yeah, you see
I
that
totally
roundabout.
gotcha.
You when you become the old guy, kind of, and there's so many different ways for that to happen, but one definitely is your kids, where
Right.
like, 13 years ago we had Finn and
Yeah.
these guys were telling me all these things, and now 13 years later, I'm telling these guys who have kids, and then I'm like, have a second, they said. It's gonna be awesome. They said, go with number two. You're a pro. You've raised one child, right? But then when number two comes, you forget that number one is still there. And it's a whole new
Chaos. Utter
ball
chaos.
game. Utter chaos, total chaos. And
Crazy.
I'm like, go for two. You should go for two. Like, uh, actually, a friend of ours, Nick, is about to have number two. He didn't relieve me this morning, but he relieved in my house. And his
Nice.
daughter is being born in, he just told me this morning, he says, my memory's shot because I'm old too, December. And I'm like, yeah, good for you, man. Wait till that happens.
Is that the Nick that just came out on the captain's list?
And Nick that just came out of the
Oh,
captain.
I know that Nick. That's a
Yeah,
good Nick.
yeah, yeah. It's good. They came out in a good spot too. So
Yeah.
yes, for those listening to in New Jersey, just a quick congratulations to anyone who came
Yes.
out on the what we call the captain's list, but I guess it would be the second level
Yeah.
supervisors list.
Depends on your city and region. Everybody gets all bent out of shape.
100%, 100%. But it's good to know, those lists are coming out again,
Yeah.
and guys are coming out, and that's going to allow for a lot of promotions in my department because
I hope so.
we were no, there's a definite so because there's
Yeah.
just been this will finally put us back on schedule post COVID for my
Okay.
department
That's
because of
awesome.
the COVID we're not
Sure.
testing drop and then the time that it took and then that little bit of a setback because the people who get
Oh.
paid to administer a test somehow managed to mess up a test.
Hmm. The secret society.
It totally is. Totally is amazing. Like you had one job to do and somehow you messed it up. I don't even understand.
Oh,
But
it's crazy.
we were not involved in that debacle.
Nope. None of us.
Not at all. Yeah. It's good. There were it didn't, but again, you hear that. So
I
it's
know.
good to know that things like that are getting back on track. Uh,
Yeah. It totally makes a difference too. Like even, you know, like for me, like, so I came out as the one of the most junior guys, came out three, like a couple tenths of a point behind one and two who are like 25-year plus guys. It is what it is. And even now they put me in a spot in June, but with manpower, it flips and flops whether I'm acting or not acting. And just like, I'm one of the dudes that like, again, like I joined the fire service in high school as a kid just to get college credit because I was a kid, immigrant parents, they didn't know anything. And one guy, my dad worked construction. One of these guys was a volley chief by him. It was like, oh, dude, just have him join it. It looks good. It'll help him get out. And here we are today. All fire based connections. But for me, I'm like, I don't. The paycheck's beautiful. It's a great pro. Working your butt off to study and this, and that. But I'm like, listen, you just got to start your time, man, because now having the little guy at home, you're like, I don't want to sound like, hey, I just want to retire, but like now you start prioritizing, right? Life. Like at first you want to just go to fires, 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 fires. Now you're like, hold up, we need these benefits. I need that pay. I work my butt off for it. That's going to allow for X, Y, Z, for him and whatnot. So it's definitely for all the dudes that if they're listening to this that I was like maybe that young annoying guy. I'm sorry, I understand life a little bit more now. Um, but
it's hard though, right? It's hard because we have as you grow, you learn,
yeah,
right? And we're always going to have those young guys. And again, now being one of the older guys and dealing with a lot of the younger guys, a good way to put it, right?
yep, oh yeah,
Putting up with whatever it is. I love every minute of every part of it. But I have to look at it in that way, that I was that kid. I can't forget that. And I was asking questions and I was annoying and I
Mm-hmm.
was wondering why other people were into this and not what I was into and those
Sure.
types of things. And I have to figure out how to navigate all of that
Absolutely.
for me, for them, and for my shift is the easiest way to put it.
Yeah. And I think that's what's, and I think we're seeing a lot of that in the fire service and just in life. Like, like it's good to see the humility and the accountability of guys going up forward. Cause even like, dude, I mean, if anybody from work has listened to this, there was a time where I was like the pouty kid. Like I got lucky, I went to the truck quick. And there were times where we had super senior guys that would bump me off the rig that day because they were in from whatever. And I was like, what? I'm assigned here. Why am I getting thrown around? But then I see like one of my junior guys acting the same way that I did, and I can't be mad at him.
Yeah.
And I did it, but I'll be like, yo, dude, like at least I can be that median now to be like, yo, this is what's going on. You know what I mean? Like I can kind of help.
You want to try to relate to them so they
Yeah. So I'm
understand,
not
so
saying like,
they
oh,
don't turn into
don't
the
act like this.
poutiness. Go pout about something
Correct.
else. Find something better to
Correct.
pout about than this because I pouted about
Absolutely.
this and it didn't get me anywhere.
Exactly. Bingo. You got to teach, and that's maybe I'm gonna learn in my time with the little guy. Like how all that relates, and all full circle. It all it's all the same story.
The kid thing definitely helps you in at least for me, helped me in that theory because you in parenting, you look at the way you were parented, you look at the way your spouse
Sure.
was parented. If you're fortunate enough to still have your parents around, they're trying to parent your kids that way. You're not trying to parent your
No,
kids that
dude,
way.
I literally experienced that like 2 3 hours ago. I went to my dad's shop, um, helping out with some paperwork or whatever, and I just turn around and he's got Brady walking around with him. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, just do it. Listen, you had 3 kids. I can't tell you no. You've been a parent. It just this is your oh no, he's rolling around. Go to sleep.
Oh, you got the video on. The video's
Yeah,
on.
I got the baby monitor. I was
Nice,
like,
nice way to go. It's funny you mentioned Colorado too, because I had a chance. I went out snowboarding many years ago
hmm,
to Colorado with some guys that I worked EMS with, and my
sure.
brother lived out there.
Okay.
And my brother was kind of like, "Dude, why are you going back to Jersey? Like, why don't you just stay out here with me? I got a room. My nephew was there, and I'm like." I think I'm gonna go back. I got a pretty good job, like working
Yeah,
EMS and dispatching, and I'm getting close on the list, and I'm taking some tests out there. And I didn't investigate enough of Colorado and the emergency services scene
sure.
out there. But looking back, and I'm
Dude.
not wishing I changed anything because everything worked out.
We're here. Yeah,
But in reality, I should have stayed. I should have been like,
dude.
because it's
I'm
such a cool scene.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, not in like same point. It's not a negative thing. It's not like, oh, I should have, could have, would have, but it's like, you make your like decisions where you are in that moment, and sometimes at a younger age. And even now I'm like, dude, like I turned down like South Metro, turned down Denver. Again, now knowing what I know now, I'm like, damn.
Yeah, South
Like,
Metro has probably like tripled in size
oh
since
my God. It's
like
every time I see him on Instagram, they're killing it with their PIO, whatever his name is. I don't know if Jeremy had him or somebody else had him recently. The dude is killing it, just pushing, and like it's PG, it's good content, and you're like, dude, this place, like, let's be real. Me growing up, everybody was like, oh, you got to be the Bronx of the 70s and 60s, or you got to be Kentland. There was no like, because
no in
YouTube was just
between.
starting.
Yeah.
The phones were just turning into like I had a flip phone. Okay, I mean you're a little older than me, but like there was no crazy media. It was just Fire Engineering, Firehouse magazine, and books that you read.
Yeah.
There was no like now you could just jump
Skinny
on a
done
computer and you see
videos.
the world, right? And you're like, what is this? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Listen, I'm happy where I'm at. It's a good life, but Colorado's
It's a great place.
who knows?
It's a great place. Like I got to spend a lot of time out there working in the fitness industry with
Yeah,
Brute Force and then Bullet, and because that's where we were based out of. So I was out there a lot,
nice.
doing that too. And I'm like, man, it's really nice out here. Like I probably should have moved out here. Like
It
the
was just
mountains, the
it,
snow, everything.
it was just such yeah, it was such a different world for me. Like granted, let's put the asterisks out there. Yes, I was a student and you didn't have real responsibilities, but even for me, it was like on my own. Like I learned accountability and like timing. You know what I mean? Like I'd go to class, all my class. I was one of those nerds that would have early classes or really late classes because like they put me into like some honor stuff, and those were like the adulty classes, like for the for like literally I had like I mean, yeah, you're a college kid, but I had like adults from town in these classes with me. So it was like, you either wake up, go to the gym, go to class, do your homework right away. Cause I was at the time I was super nerd, go to the gym again, pretend like I was going to try to pretend to pull a Rudy and walk onto the football team and all this cool stuff. But then at the same
Well,
time, you're like,
maybe when it was 1-11, you had a chance.
dude, I had a shot. I definitely had a shot.
You
I
had a
mean,
chance. I'll give you that. You had a
well,
chance.
I never recorded this one, but so funny story is, so going back in time, obviously my mom came to America. She was doing stuff around here, cleaning houses and whatnot. And one of the girls she used to work with was at one time I guess they're called like coaches assistants. Like you see the people with the water bottles on
Yeah.
the sidelines and whatever. So, they linked up once Facebook was real. My mom was like, hey, help check this out. Find it out if this girl's the person that I knew growing up. Sure. Ends up, she lives out in Colorado. And in 2006, I went out to visit her. Me and my mom went to go visit Colorado. And we ended up going. She still knew the coaching staff that was there. So I did go. I met, now I say it every day. Now I'm going to totally butcher his name. Um, Coach Cabral. So he was a linebacker of the Chicago Bears when they won the big defensive Super Bowl team, whatever. But it was funny. We had a link because I think his grandmother was Polish or something. And, my mom was like, oh, nice to meet you. Here's Polish pottery. So, but when we went and we met, dude, it was such an experience. I'm sure today you can't pull it off, because like what's going on over there.
Clearly, right now you
Oh,
cannot.
absolutely not. But, you go through the locker room, you see everything. I was like, this is cool. And he's like, how old are you, son? I'm like, I am 12. I'm like, he's like, you're a big kid. I'm like, I stopped growing. I was dude, the way I am now is the way I've been since like seventh grade.
Me too.
So
Don't worry about it.
it's a little but ever since that, it was great because you had that opportunity to see what was going on. Anyway, come back a year later, and I'm sitting like in high school. I'm sitting in not some math class, whatever ninth grade, 10th grade math was. I get called down to the principal's office. I'm like, what am I getting in trouble for? I'm just like some nerdy kid that stays out of the way, plays hockey here and there, and I get sat down. It's me, the athletic director, principal, the football coach, and they're like, it was like some like a mob scene. They're like, can you explain this letter? I'm like, I don't know. Looks cool. There's a Colorado football helmet on. He's like, yeah, but your name's on it. I go, okay. I don't know what to tell you. Like, they're like, do you play football? Like, why are they sending us stuff here? I'm like, I don't know. You want me to open it or something? And I mean, it was like one of those like, it
Yeah.
wasn't a recruitment camp, but it was one of those like when they do like their week long. And to me, it was recruitment because I didn't know what was. I had no idea what college
Yeah,
football.
it's
I
just
didn't
like a
know,
showcase camp or
it was
something.
like a showcase camp, and I was like, all right, coolest experience of my life. But again, like that's why maybe that was part of why I got hooked into it. And but again, if you know me, I am definitely not the athlete that's playing Division 1 anything, let alone Division 1 like
Even
reading
on
the
the
book.
1-11 team. Okay. Either
Yeah,
way.
then I'd have a shot to be the water boy on a 111 team, not even to tie the shoes. But yeah, that's like the secret full story of I guess why I've always been just like hooked. I had that opportunity and like, but going back to the parenting thing, like now, like if that was going on, if that happens, per se to him in 13, 14 years, I gotta be like, yo, this is like potential. I bet you my mom had no idea what was going on. My dad had no idea what was going on. Like, oh, this is football coach. Nice to meet you. Very nice. Like, no, dude, this could have been potential if I actually played football. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we actually did this, but
If
it's
I actually
crazy.
if I tried.
Kid sports. I mean, you see it at the firehouse because you've been around long enough to know
Oh,
people who have kids in probably every sport.
sure.
And like my kids play lacrosse and they're both good and they play lacrosse and they do well in it.
Right.
And you watch these things that we go to, and the older one is now getting into, he'll be in eighth grade, so he goes to high school next year.
Okay.
And I feel like the game has already gotten real for him, like for sure. Like the boys are out there and they are full on. Last year he pushed the kid out and he took two parents out with him because they were sitting so close. The chair just
Oh,
went right over, right? And my son isn't the biggest kid out there, so it was a good hit. But anyway, um, they're playing for real, but I've already seen it in the way that the emails come from the team
mm,
and what you see in the app that we use,
sure.
that next year it's going to start to be like you need to have a highlight reel, and if
That's
you're interested
crazy.
in continuing into all of this,
Yeah,
we can offer these services and we can help with this.
sure.
And it's just crazy to think like that
Dude,
that's
I
going to
remember like after that, like the only thing I actually pursued after my experience was there was like a website called Be Recruited. It was like some, it was like a MySpace of sports. You would all you would put is like a picture up, what sports you play, your height, your weight. It was like you're 40, what you bench, and that was it. Like there was nothing, there's not like max preps and all these crazy things that kids are going through these days. And I remember I got like a couple emails for hockey, and they were like, again, it was like club teams. Hey, you want to play? I was like, I don't know what any of this means. But again, you learn, you live and you learn, and
For the
I
younger
think
folks too,
requirement.
for the younger folks out there in the late 90s, MySpace was the original
Oh,
Facebook.
absolutely.
So you had to
MySpace.
be on MySpace. It
You had to
didn't
knew
last
how to
very
like
long, but
that was like the start of coding. Like you had to like it wasn't just copy and paste. Like you wanted to have like a black background or like music playing in the background. You had to like know how to get into your bio and set up all the HTML codes and all that crazy stuff.
figure out how to steal it from someone else. That's what I did. I didn't figure out how to code. I figured out how to steal the code. It was much
Oh,
easier. If
man.
that was legal or not legal, I don't know.
It was all the same. It was
But
all
it's
the same.
interesting too, because you said before we even went down these couple of tangents, which we go down, is like, you got into this as a volley to try to get some experience. And
Sure.
it's something that we see a lot of in our career now. And I was kind of the same way, except my father was on the job and had retired, and
Mhm.
he pushed me in the beginning when I was like, I think I want to do this, Dad. Like, I think I want to become a firefighter.
Sure.
He was like, well, go get your EMT because where I'm in New Brunswick, we all have to be EMTs.
Mhm.
He's like, but you can get your EMT at 16 in New Jersey. And he goes, when you turn 18, you could try to get a job if you wanted to as an EMT, as opposed to being at the time, in the mid 90s, there were not many fire departments that you could just get a job at like you can now, where smaller fire districts are starting
Sure.
to hire people that are
Absolutely.
certified in things. And that kind of led me on my path to go down the road that I did. But I think that's a big thing if you're younger, to try
Mm,
to at least start to get into this,
absolutely.
right? A good foot in the door.
No, for sure. Like, and I was similar too. Like up here, it was the same thing. Again, me, I started. There's no secret. Like 2008, 2009. So for me, it was, Fire One, you have to be 18. Even though there were junior programs, you couldn't do anything. So at the time, I was like, why am I going to get certified at 16 if I can't do anything till I'm 18? I'm just burning time. So I did the same thing. I joined the Volley Ambulance Corps, got my EMT. Started riding the bus more. But even now, like I've noticed guys that were like and then you can get into a rabbit hole of 911 EMTs versus transport EMTs, whatever. If you're an EMT, those folks, it's just like a different appreciation and understanding of the job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you did have to hustle a little bit. You had to like kind of like everybody's a probie and goes through like the shoveling shit phase, but the folks that were like, hey, I had to like I really got into this and I stayed into it and like you kind of progressed. But even like, dude, I'm sitting through my research. I got one a month now, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't do this all over again now in today's world. Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
I will clean toilets as all day in the firehouse if I don't have to ever do another transport EMS, like a transport company, not like a transport
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
BLS.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like do like
Oh my
a
god,
nursing home
God
transfer.
bless them. That stuff is crazy.
I
Oh
mean, I did it. That was so my primary. So when I first got hired, I hired at 19 in an EMS, and
mhm.
that's all we would get hired for. We
Yeah,
had a 911 service, but you had to start on the transport side, and then you
yeah,
go
yeah,
back
yeah,
into
yeah.
911, which was exciting because occasionally we got to go on a real EMS
Crazy.
call. But I mean, like I've been all over the state. I've been up to Boston on transports,
Yeah,
like, and yeah, I'll clean toilets in the firehouse all day to not do that again. But you do get a different appreciation for it.
sure.
And it's the same as being a firefighter. When you start as a probie and then you move through the ranks or whatever, you have a whole appreciation because you've done all those jobs.
Right.
I kind of feel the same way about career EMS. If you start doing those transport jobs, you're doing anything you can to get to an emergency truck for most people.
True. Oh, it's crazy. It's a crazy world.
Yeah, we'd be
EMS.
like listening to the radio because, and again, it was a smaller, it's a humongous EMS organization now in the state of New Jersey. But when I worked there, it was very small.
Yeah.
We were like listening to the radio and being like, was that just an ALS job without BLS? Let's try to put ourselves on it because there's no computers or anything. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
let's see
yeah,
if we
yeah.
could put ourselves on it. And they'd be like,
Oh,
no, you got to transport in 10 minutes.
you're
Son
like,
of a-
you got to go drive 3 hours in the wrong direction.
yeah,
Okay.
in traffic,
Yeah. Gridlock.
both ways. Traffic is going to be both ways. And you're
Oh,
not getting out on time tonight ever.
nope. Overtime? Nope. Straight pay. Damn.
Oh no, we got overtime. We definitely got overtime where I was. That was one positive, but
That was a pull.
it was not fun to do that. But it does. It gives you that different appreciation. And
Sure.
I think as someone younger who's looking to get into this field, going the EMS route in the beginning is only going to be beneficial for you.
Absolutely. Listen, it's gonna, especially if you do it. I mean, New Jersey's now national, which is good. Um, but even like just at studying, so I've even noticed that like now teaching, between academies and on my own kind of stuff, it's like when watching and kind of like helping people learn, right? How do you take this information, all this knowledge, and and understand it? It's the same with like EMT and fire school. Like fire school, yes, there's technical knowledge that we have to push through in the Academy Fire One world, but like EMT, man, like there's some science to that. Like you can't slack. And I'm not saying like fire versus EMS, but like you got to know your shit, man.
There
Because
is no
that's
slacking in EMT class.
right.
There is just none.
You got to hustle. You can't cut corners. And I'm not saying fire people cut corners, but you can, there is a lot of common sense in the fire certification world. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like, if you're a construction
You can
guy,
narrow it down to two answers usually every time.
right? But
And you're
EMT, you're
doing a
like,
test in EMT.
so looking at these things, you're like, oh, I picked this one, I killed the guy. I picked this one, he's all right. I picked these three, they know I'm cheating, or they know I'm totally off. Like it's just
And
the
there's
world
that
of it.
knowledge. You need that human anatomy knowledge, and you need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I love emergency medicine. If
Right.
New Jersey wasn't the way it was, and I could be a paramedic riding on
Yeah.
engine or preferably the ladder truck like I do now, that would be the best thing ever. Like show up, I'll start a line, give some meds. Okay, off to the
Yeah.
hospital you go with these nice people who are taking you.
Right.
Go back to being a fireman. Who doesn't like the smell and feel of leather? Looking to fulfill your custom leather needs? Well, as we say here in Jersey, I got a guy. Rob over at Ridgeway Leather Works is literally that guy. Several years back, I happened to be sat next to him at a mutual friend's wedding, and this dude told me more about leather than I ever thought I needed to know. His passion for his business is evident in the quality of his work. His team and his family can make all their needs. So whether you're looking for a radio strap, a radio holster, a pair of suspenders, a chin strap, a locker tag, or really anything leather related, Ridgeway is the place to go. So check them out at ridgewayleatherworks.com or on IG at Ridgeway Leatherworks. And tell them Pip from the Size Up sent you. And maybe you'll get a special jersey treat in your package. I would love nothing more than that, but we tell our guys, so we do, in my department, we do fire 1 and 2 first.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Certification, all the fire disciplines.
Yep.
Then they come out and they work with us for about a year.
Okay.
So they'll go on EMS calls with us because the rest of us are EMTs, but they're just watching or helping where they can. Then we send them to EMT class.
Gotcha.
It is drilled into every one of these guys' heads that you are not done. That EMT class, you need to be just like you were in the academy a year ago and in the books. And we've had great success.
Great success.
Some folks have taken a little longer than others, but you see it in the work that they're doing.
Right.
And they all do admit after the fact, if I would have just put in a little more like everybody else did, I would have gotten through. Because that's it. It's just putting in the work, man. Reading the books and doing the tests and
practice.
Making it happen. Yeah, practice. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a crazy world.
Yeah. And we don't have a transport, thank God. Ambulance.
So you guys are just
see that we're just first responder.
As EMTs though.
As EMTs, yeah.
That's nice. Like, so for us, like, again, I got my EMT prior to, but like for us, we do the same thing. Fire 1, Fire 2, and just first responder, New Jersey. Which is personally, I was like, always like, why not just get the guys to EMT? I get it, business, money, and all that kind of stuff. But like, there's just, like you said, there's some more avenues on the EMT front, Look at that bug floating around.
Yeah, I know. You see that thing? This is a new one.
I don't even have HD and I can see that thing.
it's the Apple camera, but this thing's killing me now. I'm like, maybe you didn't see it, but now I'm like looking at it fly around, waiting for it to reappear.
And make a nice, good, a GIF or whatever.
Yeah, just me going like this. the whole episode, Sebby will be like, I could cut that up, watch it happen. It'll be so cool. But it also, too, being an EMT in the fire world is just an added bonus as a firefighter, right? Like, you can go and get a part-time job if you wanted to doing it, but the knowledge that you have, your ability to truly help people,
right. It makes a difference on the scenes, dude. Even like when you're, for me, it was always like, growing up around here, we had a rescue squad, and it was like those guys, like for us, it was you needed 2 of the 3 certifications to get off probation. Didn't matter how you either needed heavy rescue, rescue tech, whatever they call it up here, EMT, fire 1. You needed two of the three to get off probation. And it was like a no-brainer because you always knew like, yes, this isn't a New York City rescue company or like a super Western California-based tech team, but just the opportunities you had, like when something did happen, like it was kind of cool to see that all of our guys and girls were always on point. So there wasn't like, I'm not trying to take away from like multi-agency operations, but if I knew that I had, a rescue truck full of folks that were in charge of the patient, in charge of the vehicle, while cutting, while everything was set up, like, years later as a boss, you're like, that was aces, because you knew that like I can trust and have all the work done by my guys and not worry about like, hold on, I need a line from here. I need an EMS to take care of this. Like obviously you're gonna give the patient over once the EMS shows up. But for those moment in time when you got that initial setup, you're aces. Everybody's on point. And I think, EMT dude, you see it. It's like no matter what discipline you get into, whether it's, I've been doing a lot of stuff in like secret squirrel worlds right now, and a lot of those folks, they're all EMT medics, and they're always like, "Oh, this guy's all tacked out." That's cool. Still an EMT. All those dudes that are always ahead of the curve are involved in medical world, man. And and I'm sure Matt will listen to this podcast and be like, "Dude," and I break his chops all the time because he's career EMS, and I'm always like, "Yo, go get hired." And he's like, "Nah, dude. Like this is what I'm good at. This is what I like. This is what I love." And I'm like, "All right." Like, it's business. If you're good at something, stick to it.
But you need that too, and the knowledge is always going to help you, And I think for us now in today's day and age, when you look at the
Yeah,
secret squirrel guys and why they're becoming EMTs and things, because that's a big part of how you're going to save someone's life, right? You
absolutely.
need that basic knowledge. And if you go back and listen a couple episodes ago with Ofer, firefighter O from Trauma Pack, and all the operational medicine that he's talking about,
Mhm.
those are real life things now, and
Right.
those things are really happening. And 94, oh, no, not 94. Good Lord, dating myself, 94, 95, so almost. We weren't the tourniquet was bad. Tourniquets
Yeah,
are
don't
horrible.
do it. Yeah, and
Right
now
now,
like,
I'm not even gonna lie to you. There's 4 tourniquets sitting over here on the shelf behind me because that's how prevalent they are in the world now.
yeah. Well, dude, it's even like, like I'm doing a lot of stuff with the active shooter. And it's like same thing, just that trauma medicine and just making sure that even if you're not an EMT or paramedic, like just firefighters, like when shit pops off, that doesn't matter like what team you're on, they're gonna call everybody and you gotta know what to
Yeah.
do. God forbid you gotta do it for yourself. Like it's a mess. And even like, going back to the tourniquet, like I've seen guys putting, we started doing is just zip tying a couple and not, somebody's gonna be like, oh, zip tie, it's not coming off. But like one of the breakaways, like from a can, putting them on saws and stuff. Cause
I was just gonna ask you that if you've seen that because I was
yeah,
thinking like,
like I don't care how grit and grimy it is, but like if it happens, it's gonna manage something before we get you down from wherever, because
yeah,
it's happening. Accidents happen. We're not what's the word for it? Like my Polish kicks in. My brain's translating like 6,000 words. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like we're not invincible. Like
yeah.
we're fine. Like shit
No,
happens.
if something
Accidents
bad,
happen.
if you need a tourniquet on the fire ground, chances are good a saw may be involved. Like
Just
for us as firefighters,
saying.
right? Like just saying, there's a very good chance that I mean,
Right.
there's other ways it could happen for sure,
Yeah.
but
But
if
9 out of 10 times, common
it's
sense, it's going to be the massive saw we're running
it really could
in
be.
zero conditions.
It's funny because you look at some of these crazy rules that these organizations put out for us that are like, you have to have this vest on the highway.
Oh,
And I get it. Look, you're trying to protect me and the
sure.
highways are dangerous and this, that. But you also let me take a class for 3 hours that now certified me or didn't really certify me to somehow climb a roof in the rain of a burning
Hmm.
building with a chainsaw in my hand at night.
That's right.
And that's okay. But this vest thing, if I don't have that on,
We're
hey,
smacking you with fines left and right, and you're getting enough.
right? And like, and granted, we are cutting less roofs than we had in the past, just
Sure.
because of the way things are working these days. But if something's gonna go awry, that
Hmm.
could be the place. So why not, if you have the room to get that tourniquet
Right.
on and it's not in your way?
Right. And it
Like,
doesn't work for everybody. Like, for me, like I carry, like we have, your day bag or whatever you want to call it. Guys have
mhm.
other nicknames for them. Like I have a couple in there. Something happens, just hey, it's in the bag, it's in the rig, you can grab it right away.
Yep. I used to have one on my radio strap
There
constantly
you go.
for years, and then we got them in my department. And then
There you
guys
go.
were like, "Bro, what'd you do with the? Why don't you have it on the radio strap anymore?" And I'm like, "Cause we got them." I'm like, "I
And we
put
got
that
like
one back
15
in my
supplies.
car." Yeah, I'm like, they're everywhere. We just got to remember where they are is half the battle.
Right.
But they're all in our jump kits. There's two in every jump kit.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great that my department, we did, we went through the class and the program, and that too alone opened up guys to like, I
Mhm.
can do this.
Sure.
And we learned how to do it appropriately and saw how to stop the bleed.
Hmm.
And we just keep kind of moving forward with
Yeah,
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But that's a big part of this too, is that moving forward. And I think that's a lot what you're doing with Flow and Vent, right?
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's been crazy. I've had a conversation with a bunch of people, Jeremy being one of them. Like, what are you doing next? What's going on? I'm like, dude, I don't. It's not that I don't know. I'm just like, I'm just chilling. Like, I like teaching. You know, this fall we got something happening once a month, and I just like, this is the nerd coming out of me. It's like, you have all these textbooks, you have all these novels, and all this information out there, but like, how do you just keep it simple? How, I mean, we all see it. I don't care if you're the probie, if you're the 50-year senior salty veteran, like with the phones today and the people and how people are developing and how people are thinking these days. Like, you just got to keep it simple. So, that's, I think, kind of what I'm kicking off with, like just maintaining basic training and to the point. Cause even like lately, I found myself writing a lot, like you just mentioned, with like cutting roofs and stuff like that. Like by us, and even up in this Volley area, like we still cut roofs, but just going out there and talking to people, like, why not? And then, then there's that push that we always see. Oh, don't cut roofs anymore. Okay, understood. Why not cut the gable out? Because at the end of the day, physics is still going to work, and you can make a gable, and smoke and fire and heat are going to come out that opening you made for your guys inside. Um, so it's been a fun ride so far, and hopefully it continues. And I'm kind of chilling. I mean, I know chilling, when you say it that way, people are like, oh, you're just kind of stagnant. I'm like, nah, I'm just kind of
Because
calmed down a little bit.
it's hard
Like
too, because you're putting so much work, right? Like
it's a lot, and
what you
people
see
don't.
isn't, you don't ever see the background. You see the duck,
Sure.
you're the majestic swan floating through the water, but their feet are going a mile a minute.
Oh my god, like this, it's just absolutely. And that's like, your stuff, my stuff, everybody that's involved in publishing something, whether it's a word or a book, it's just nonstop behind the scenes that nobody sees or nobody understands. Because even, like all the classes that you take, and how do you teach? Because even like my wife's like, why do you keep teaching at the academy if it's, this, that? I'm like, hey, it keeps you relevant, and it's just nice to see, not turnover in a negative sense, but like how the impact is happening and like what's going on. Because what, a couple of years ago it was shut down the academies, they suck. They're not teaching the right way. But now, a couple of years later, you see a lot of people that have gotten involved in teaching, and they're kind of rewriting the culture of the fire academy, where it's kind of like, hey, it's not all, you know, mundane, kind of like check mark boxes, but I'll teach you what we have to do. But now I'm going to give you a little real life info with it. And it kind of keeps that ball turning, and you're kind of like, or the wheel turning, and you're like, whoa, this place isn't that boring. It's just how it's presented and how it's delivered.
So it's funny that you say that, because so here in New Jersey, for the folks that aren't in New Jersey, it used to be like let's go with a home rule in how you learned things.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So there was home rule for everywhere, taught everybody how they felt like they had to teach them. And
Sure.
then the state got on board nationally and was like, no, you're going to do it this way. And there's going to be JPRs that have to get filled out in Fire One, Fire Two. I don't really know how far they've gone down, but um, that everyone's going to learn these specific tasks. And of course, that was like pitchforks and
Oh,
torches. And
it was crazy. It was
there was
fun.
a couple years in there where this was coming out that it was like, we're not doing this. But obviously they didn't go away, because things like that don't go away because they're not bad. But
Right.
what that's done, in my opinion, is what you just said. People teach the JPRs and the folks get the JPR knowledge that they need. However, with that, then the other stuff comes in where they get
Mhm.
the reality of how you're going to apply this, right?
Sure.
Again, this is my opinion.
Yeah. And no, and like I definitely say, because like I was fortunate enough, like when I went through as a volley and again as a career guy, it was like I had great instructors, but they were just very good with how the teaching process was. And I think for me, like going back to like me being a nerd and all the school stuff, like high school wasn't fun for me academically, right? Because in high school you're very much where you kind of like Fire One, the JPR way, like you read the book, you read your chapters, and you answer the question. It's very black and white. It's A to B. As I got into college, what I feel all of us are doing in the fire service right now. All like everybody. I don't care if you're, a big name, a little name, a big magazine, or just a blog. It seems that everybody is now doing that higher thinking and applying and explaining the who, what, when, where, and why. Yes, listen, we all know there's the armchair quarterbacks and things get out of whack sometimes, but just being able to explain what's going on, now you're kind of like, oh, well, that's not going to work here, so I appreciate it, but now you end up in some crazy jurisdiction. It's going to work there, with those guys or girls or whatever.
Well, we're
So I
talking
think
about
that
that a lot more,
learning,
right? We're definitely talking. Everybody's talking about that a lot more. That like this may not. This works for me.
sure,
What works for me on my truck company or when I was an
right,
engine captain may not work for you where you are.
right,
But maybe you could take a little part of that and make it work for you, you know?
absolutely,
And I think we're seeing that more and more um, as the internet expands,
mm-hmm.
as folks like Flo and Van and Bobby are getting out there more and,
Right,
and putting their spin on things. And then not just their spin, but their people spin too, because they're bringing
mm-hmm.
in instructors from all over the place
Right.
trying
But
to.
even look what you were doing with the fitness stuff, like, right, you were like one of the first dudes that was like, at least that I was aware of, that was pushing like functional firehouse fitness. Just like, hey, you don't have to be that guy slamming 6 slices and a diet Pepsi and a pack of cigarettes and just benching 355. Like, you could do all these little things and it makes a difference. And I think you see that like just building and building and growing. And now like I go to work and all of our guys are like just calisthenic, like they're all shredded and fit, but they don't do crazy stuff. It's like basic. And again, I'm not the model for it, but they're the dudes are just doing basic things and it's working and everybody's healthier and your tasks are executed better, when you're at these jobs.
Because it's better than nothing. I think that's always been one of my, I don't care how you fitness, as long as you're fitnessing, whatever
Sure.
that is. We had that era of men, of firefighters, of whatever you want to say, that, they were roofing and they were
Yeah.
doing a lot
Whole
of
different
manual
now.
labor jobs. And then that kind of ended. And in that end, we had that like bodybuilder phase of
Yeah.
like, I read Pump Magazine and I want to work out like Arnold did because he's shredded, and we learned that that isn't necessarily sustainable through life in the
Sure.
career that we do. It is sustainable for some folks, but very few. And you start to see that change happen. And that's the same on the teaching end of basic fire tactics, basic. And I'm not going to get into the EMS teaching end of it because that's a whole different ball
That's
game.
an old one.
It's a whole different animal, not different podcast. I'll get an EMS guy on here one day. But I think that's a big part of it. And it's that change that you were
Mhm.
mentioned, in the pre-show questions of just growth and change as being so important.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And
Everything's
then
good and crazy in my book.
the whole world is crazy, right? It's just crazy. But it's cool to be a part of it too, and
Yeah.
even when I was writing things down and getting ready for this, and I'm like Flow and Vent, I'm like, God, I never thought about how simple of a name that is. But
Dude,
it's what
that
we
came
do.
from,
Like
yeah, but
that's
you know
all
what's
you
funny?
have to
Like,
do.
that's all it is. And it was funny because like when me and my buddy Pete were like coming up with the name early, like high school days. Um, he was a model fireman. I was in the rescue over here, and it was like we were just like, oh, new age fire tactics, and like trying to come up with this like stupid name. And he was like, dude, flow event. I'm like, what? What did you say? He goes, yeah, no, why not? I'm like, but you have to vent before. It's fine. Just leave it the way it is. 3 words, it's to the point, and we'll see where it goes. And we're here. Somehow it's still people understand, or at least have heard of it.
But you should, but when you hear it and you really like, again, I thought about it more. I'm like, all we got to do is flow and vent. If somebody flows water and I vent the window, we
It's
can put
over.
fire out. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it. It's
There's
like
a little
prime
bit
time,
more
just
to it than that.
firematic.
That's it. But there's a little bit more to it than that. But in reality, if we could just
That's all
do
it
it,
is. Keep it
and
simple.
I try to explain that to people too. Like, you need to learn at the highest level whatsoever. You need to go out and get as much education as you can and knowledge and pull that back in. But keep the basics simple. Everybody
Hmm.
does their job. We can make this happen better.
Absolutely. And I think that's been like for me personally, that was like my learning curve, I guess, being like a young volley officer and now hopefully being an officer in a couple, come on, city. But like that was my biggest thing is like I always strive for like crazy like technical rescue and shit that we don't do often and we weren't trained on. But you can do all that like you said, that high level crazy. I don't care how technically you get, whether it's in a fire, as a truck company, in the EMS world to an extent with an asterisk, or some crazy rescue job. At the end of the day, if you just whittle it down to the basics, it's simple stuff.
It's all the same. It's
You
just
know,
a
like
matter of like looking at that picture
it's like Lego
and
blocks,
figuring out how
man.
to do
Like
it.
you
Yeah,
could
taking them power. Yep.
like you build this massive. You see all these. I mean, I haven't seen it, but like in a while, like kids used to build these like life size, how crazy competitions. Like it all comes down to like the same old block that we all played with, a little 4x4, 2x6, whatever it is. It's all doable. It just depends how you apply it and what you're going to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, dude, a Z rig or a 4x4, 4-to-1, and you can pretty much do any rope rescue operation. Pretty
It's the
much.
basic. All you
But
need.
you may need to make it a little crazy as it's going on,
Correct.
but
Correct.
it's the same as extrication. We're just
Right.
disassembling.
But
Figure out the best way. Like when people ask, and I'm sure you get this when you teach extrication, because I know I do. Well, if I'm going to do a door pop, do I do the hinges first or do I do the nader bolt first? And I mean, like, I've had people with 30 years on ask me
right.
that, and people with a week on ask me that. And I'm like, when you walk up to the car, what's going to be the easiest thing to do? Look at it and say, nader bolt, hinges. What is
Right.
presenting easy for me?
Sure.
And go down.
Absolutely.
Press the easy button.
That's it. Keep it simple. Well, I always do it this way. Okay. Before you do that, dude, the hinges are exposed. Just snip them and it falls out. Oh, okay.
Really easy. The hinges
Keep
are
it simple.
exposed. Hey, cut the hinges, please cut the
Oh,
hinges. I'm not
crazy.
gonna lie. I am a big fan of the nader bolt first, but
Yeah,
if you don't have the hinges exposed, because that's gonna take me more time to expose them. But it's that simple,
absolutely.
whatever it is. But if you get there and you're like, oh look, I could cut that, cut
Right.
it
Ain't
then.
no big deal.
It was like, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember, like going back to like reintroducing sawzalls.
Yeah.
Holy cow, let's rip through posts with sawzalls.
Dude,
The
souls, those little
power
skill souls.
hydraulics
Yeah.
sawzalls.
It's like nothing's changed. The only thing that's changing is like the vehicles themselves. But you see, like, dude, we used to do one time, I'll say this. We did like a couple rescue competitions in South Bergen. And we were like, oh yeah, big, hydraulic tools, boom, boom, boom. This one company came out with just like sawzalls, just basic, like not, I call them skill saws. Those basic, just the rotary, whatever. I'm totally butchering. My dad would hate me in the woodworking world. And they just came, ripped the car up, boom, 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 boom. And you're like, well, yeah, that worked.
They did that really fast. We should
Instant. Yeah,
maybe
you
try
guys
one
are.
of those things once.
Yeah, well, look at that. Interesting.
But
You
again,
know.
it's at getting yourself out there,
Yeah.
right? Putting yourself out there and agreeing that maybe we can change the way we do some things
Sure.
in certain circumstances, that being
Absolutely.
adaptable. And I think we're sort of seeing that to go back. I don't know. This episode may be called Prime to talk about like Coach Prime and what he's doing out there in Colorado, right? But he came in, he
Yeah.
made this huge splash. He's made some moves. He pissed some people off in the
Yep.
process. Do I think they're going to win the national
No
championship this
way.
year? No.
I mean,
Do I?
it'd be amazing.
Anything's possible.
I don't
Listen, at
think
this point, I'm going to believe anything with this dude that he can do. But but what they're doing is great.
sure.
Just by kind of saying this is how it's going to go.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. I think I talked about it either on like our last podcast or just around the firehouse. I talk about him a lot more now, and it's not just because he's from he's coaching Colorado. It's like you said, what he's doing. So initially, you sit there, you're like, all right, three-quarters of the team is getting, hey, transfer out or play the game. You're either gonna like what I do or you got to leave. Listen, we got to kind of do that at home in the firehouse. Like sometimes you got to start doing that kind of stuff because now you see the result. Listen, they haven't put out like the last three games I watched, obviously, were not full packages, right? One game, the defense is killing it. One day, the offense is killing it. This last one, they didn't play until like the last, the first 2 minutes and then the last 2 minutes of the game. But you're like, overall, like he's still staying humble. He's still, keeping his cool and working forward. And one of the guys on ESPN put it out was like, I don't know if it was like Bill Russell made a comment about him or something. He's like, when they were panicking, all they did was look at him and he was like, cool. Like he knew, I'm not saying like today, like, oh, he knew they were going to win, but like he knew what he had to do to
Yeah.
get these guys to try. And that's the thing with leadership in the fire service. Like, what are we doing? You got to be accountable. You got to be humble and you got to have a plan of action, man. You can't just wing it.
And you have to always shoot for perfection.
Yeah,
But realize you're not
absolutely.
going to get it. Nobody's getting perfection. He's not
Sure.
getting perfection. But if the offense does great, they win a game. If the
Sure.
defense does great, they win a game. If they play good in the first 2 minutes and the last 2 minutes, they win the game. You roll up to a working fire, everything's not going to be perfect,
Never.
right? Something somewhere is going to be messed up. It's
Right.
how you handle that not perfection and move the
Absolutely.
ball forward, both in the game and after the game. And I
Yeah,
think probably that's what he's doing really successfully out there.
absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully he keeps it up, man. It's
Listen,
nice.
there
It's
was a
nice to see them win.
There was a Jersey guy who coached in Jersey and did really well, and then he went to Florida and played a couple of games, and all the fans were like, "We don't like you," and it didn't work there for him. They didn't even give the dude a shot to do what he wanted to do at that
Right.
time.
It's possible.
And now
Absolutely.
he's back in New Jersey, and
Interesting.
his
They're winning
team is
again.
3-0 until
Interesting. Good.
hopefully this weekend we can do something. But when you see that, and it's that you don't have to be perfect, and that's a big thing with kids too. And your
Yeah.
little guy's really little now, but you'll see that. Listen, I don't care if you win or lose a lacrosse game, right? My younger son is a goalie, and a
Mhm.
lacrosse goalie, like 10 goals is average let in. So,
Sure.
we already start with that as like keep it below 10 and you've
You win.
successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care if you lose the game. I don't care if you let 16 goals in, you let 20 goals in, as long as you're in every play, right?
Right.
And a lot of times when you watch a lacrosse goalie, the ball is just missing the net by that much, but it's coming so fast. Like my son is he stops more shots with his head than he does his net. So he's got a helmet on. It's okay. There's no head injuries there. But I'm just want him to be out there and
Right.
put out as much as he can and stay in the game. And I think that's a big part of this.
Absolutely. You got to be all in. And like, you said that with with Dion saying, like, you're striving for perfection. You have to,
Yeah.
whether you're taking your entrance exam, whether you're doing a promotion like we've all been through now, it's like, you got to do that. Even when you're going back to your own company, like you may not be, you may not have like the storybook fire department. You may not have the perfect company. You may not have all the equipment and tools and Disney World equipment you want. But if you could just make those little differences by being all in, your team's going to follow. I'm not saying follow in a sense like the mother duck with the ducklings, but they're going to believe, they're going to respect you, and if they have that two-way communication, they're going to be like, if this guy's telling me to do this and he's always putting 110% in, why am I not doing it?
Yeah, they're going to question themselves as what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
Is this really am I really living up to what I can, and that
Right.
potential that I have in me to do better and to do more.
Yeah.
I like that, man. I think that's a good way to wrap this up before the little guy wakes up there. That's
There
a
you
good
go.
thing, man. You should start a podcast or something. You're really good at these one-liners.
Prime time. Oh, that's a hashtag. That's trademark now.
Yeah, no, that is not going to be the name of this podcast because I am not going to do that.
Unless you put like a hash, prime, and then make the E a 3.
Actually, they'd have to sue the parent company, National Fire Radios.
Oh.
Sorry, Jeremy. I know you're in Maui right now doing great things. I just got to sued. I can't help it, man. We made it. We had a good run up the 37 episodes here with Pip until I got sued. But litigation takes a really long time, so we can keep recording probably until then. They couldn't shut us down. I swear, some days he listens to my podcast and he's like, "Why did I let?
Why'd you do this one? For a shot.
When am I going to shut this dude down? And how am I going to do it?" All right, buddy, let's hit these size up 10 here before the little guy wakes up. We'll try to go fast, but it never goes
Yeah,
fast.
he's good.
That's just the way it goes. And see, look, I didn't even write down what time we were starting, so then Sebby will get mad at me. All right, size up 10. Beach or mountains?
Oof. It has to be one or the other. Mountains, but I would love a place where I could do both. You dig what I'm saying? Like California.
California. Yep. Aaron Hines from Life Aid Beverage on a past episode. He's like, I'm looking at a mountain if I look to my right.
Oh, that's amazing.
Looking at the ocean if I look to my left. So I'm gonna go with both.
That's awesome.
I hate you. Night in or night out?
Night in.
Nice. A good book or a good movie?
It's a lot cheaper these days.
It is a lot cheaper these days. It is to be cheap. Good book or good movie?
Oh, movie, 100%. A movie guy.
Give me one. Give me a movie then.
You'll make fun of me. I do like nerdy old stuff. Favorite movie's Dumb and Dumber. I know that's not a cinematic classic, but just one-liners that and you can recite the whole movie years later. It's a win.
They're there, and they went to Colorado. So
listen, Stanley Kubrick was a teacher there for a little bit, allegedly.
Cross country road trip. Who's your co-pilot?
Oof. Now I got to say my family. I have to. No, listen.
So we're gonna change this one this week.
Like a celebrity, let's
go with that. Yeah, cross country road trip. Who's your celebrity co-pilot?
Oh man, The Rock.
Oh, wow. I like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, man. That is a very good answer there. I bet if we put that out on social media, he may
listen. Find me. And he was just in Boulder. Come on, connections.
We could go cross country together. Don't you want to do that, Dwayne The Rock Johnson? Look at me. Don't I look like a guy you want to spend a couple days in a car? You're in, dude. Listen, if you make that happen, we're coming along. Me
Could
and
you
Sam,
imagine that?
it would be a good
So
one.
didn't you hear my petty story about me pretending to try to be a Colorado football player, and now you were there? Come on, I know you're not
This
hard
is
to
fate.
find, Dion.
This is
Just let
fate.
me be a water boy.
It's fate and the size up. Do you make your bed every day?
Yes,
$1 million right now, which we don't have, or go back to 18 with a redo.
I'll take 1 million now.
Nice.
Everything's been good right now. So if I had money to play the game now, I wouldn't change what I have. I would just, now you get a little smarter with investments and life and stuff. But I'm not. Come on, it's
Really are
better
like an
game.
old nerd, like investments. like dude, we're going to Vegas, bro. $1 million. Jeremy just
Well,
gave me
listen,
$1
listen.
Vegas,
Investment
bro.
could be. Listen, I'm gonna go buy a beach house and live there
And
three
see the
quarters of the
mountains.
year, see the mountains, and then when I got to get rid of it, I sell it, and there's my investment turnaround.
This is what happens when two Jersey guys try to do something fast. It takes for
Turn into 3 hours.
highways or back roads.
Back roads.
Bucket list place to visit.
Anywhere in Colorado. I mean, but I like going to Europe. I spent some time. Let's see, here's a joke. I like Colorado, but flip a coin. I could go back to, I could go to Poland, Germany again. That's a beautiful place too over there.
Yeah, I've not been to Poland or Germany. I've been to Europe, though, a few different places in Europe, Italy, and
Yeah.
actually, my family, believe it or not, I'm not all Italian. I am
Oh,
Irish on my mom's side, so yeah, we don't have any relatives still there, but I could probably trace some roots back to the
very
Lester
nice.
clan there in some way or another, somewhere. Middle Eastern Europe is what I
Over there.
call this. Yeah, somewhere over there that no one can track down. All right, two more to go. Football or football?
Ooh, college football.
Okay. There you go. I like that little preference. Colorado college football because it's just a
Listen, the
consistent.
Broncos are the Broncos. It is what it is. But dude, like Polish soccer is not the greatest, but when I watch, I'm locked in, man. Like when you grow up in that culture and like if you're in the culture of soccer and football, it's a whole different world, man. Like that's different. That's a whole
It's
nother
life. It is
respect
life.
level.
It
Absolutely.
honestly for me, it's definitely football.
Yeah.
To watch it all, and then more resurgence recently with Ted Lasso and Welcome to Wrexham
Yes.
and
Great show.
all those kind of things. Like just I'm in now. Like I'm following
Sure.
Wrexham left and right. It's crazy. I'm like texting people like, you see who just got traded? It's like
Yeah.
the Welsh football team who've never been thinking we're talking about this. So all right, last one. Best advice you could give to your younger self.
Oof. Be patient and stick to the plan.
I like it.
Patience is the biggest thing, man. Like
It's the
I'm learning
hardest
it.
and biggest thing in life. And I see that with my 85-year-old father, both
Yeah.
his patience level still and my patience level with him.
Uh,
It's so hard. I have to like bite my clench my teeth together to just be like, be patient. You need to be patient.
Husa.
Yeah, oh, I don't even work anymore for that. I love you, Dad, if you're listening today. Uh, Listen, Rob, I do appreciate this hour nap time joining me. It's been a lot of fun. I think we got some great stuff out there. Hopefully, someone picks something up out of it. For the folks that want to follow you more, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Nah, I appreciate it. Yeah. Everything's on Flow Event. So Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. I try to do that funny thing that the what's his name, that one comedian goes into. He's like, your mother's face, this, that. You ever listen to that guy?
I think I
I think
have,
he's
but
like a Jersey or Long Island
yeah,
guy, but he goes into like, but yeah, Flow Event or LinkedIn, it's just Rob Policht. If you want to nerd out about anything, that's where I'm at.
it's the ultimate Colorado nerd. You can learn more about Colorado where they put honey on pizza crust.
Dude, listen, I had that Bojo's pizza once. It's like those mountain pies.
Come on,
Crazy. It's like healthy, but not. It's like you're eating a cake of pizza
rip up your
dough with honey
I don't
and
even want to
just
hear from you anymore. You're not
greens
from
and
New Jersey
vegetables
anymore now that you're saying
and
this. You don't
meats.
deserve to be on.
Oh,
This podcast may never come out now. That's how it's done. I
the
should just
pizza
mute you.
battle.
I should just mute your thing right now.
See
So
the flow event closure, the hard closure.
yeah, that's it.
Just stop.
Damn, you literally almost got the slam. You insulted New Jersey pizza. That's it. Episode's over. Listen, man, thanks everybody for tuning in, spending your Tuesday or whatever day of the week you're actually listening to this with us. I'd like to thank all the folks out there, our good friends, our good sponsors, Notorious Fire, Ridgeway Leatherworks, Vanguard Safety Wear. We have a new sponsor starting up with the podcast. You're going to hear about my cold immersion therapy tub that I have from my friends at New Breath. And I've been spending about the last month and a half every day in the icy cold water before I was like, I want to talk about this and see tell everybody how I'm feeling. So that's going to be coming out this month on the Size Up by National Fire Radio. Until then, we'll catch you next time.